We have some breaking Philadelphia Eagles news on this Sunday. You're watching Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. Hope all of you out there are enjoying your weekends. As for that breaking news, the Eagles signing a former Broncos safety who has ties to current Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio from when he was a head coach of the Denver Broncos. Before we dive in, be sure to hit that subscribe button here on the channel for daily Eagles shows. If I have to work on vacation like I did in Maine, or today on a Sunday, which is supposed to be a day off to bring you elite Eagles content, that's what I'm going to do because this is the standard for Eagles coverage right here on YouTube. And how can I not hop in front of the camera on the microphone and talk about this intriguing roster move for the Birds? So hit that subscribe button right now as we approach 80,000 subscribers. So the Eagles this morning signing former Broncos safety Caden Sterns. He is not Justin Simmons, but he is a quality player, an intriguing addition, and people have tried to tell me, Chase, you're crazy for saying that the Eagles need safety help. Well, they clearly feel the same way that I do about this position on this Eagles roster. As for the player here, the background, what he could bring, and some of the concerns that I do have about this move, Sterns was a fifth-round pick in 2021. He played his college football at Texas. He has played in 21 games over 3 years for the Broncos. He's only 24 years old. But he has not played since suffering a torn patellar tendon in his left knee in the Broncos season opener last year against the Las Vegas Raiders in Denver. This, I think, is a quality pickup for the Eagles if he can stay healthy. He was very productive when he played, but he has had back-to-back years in which he has suffered season-ending injuries, and Denver thought it was kind of just time to give him a fresh start elsewhere. That's why they let him go a couple of weeks ago, but he has real starter potential when he is healthy. As for those injuries, a knee injury last year, just a couple of snaps into the season opener, and then the year before that, he had this weird hip injury, which started off as a hip impingement, which turned more problematic, and then he had to get hip surgery. But a couple of years ago, he filled in admirably for Justin Simmons, and he came onto the Broncos' radar as a player who was good, and the Broncos thought, we might have a legitimate safety tandem here in Justin Simmons as well as Caden Sterns moving forward for our Broncos defense. Unfortunately for Sterns, he's been snake bitten by some injuries. So in totality, of the last 29 Broncos games, he has played 2 snaps. But when he's been on the field in his 21 career games, he's been able to put some really good production and plays on tape. He has 4 interceptions and 9 pass breakups, and again, he's only 24 years old, so that's pretty impressive. He was released by the Broncos, picked up by the Carolina Panthers, and then he was waived when he failed his physical, so he is not going to practice right away for Philadelphia. As for why the Eagles made this move, they needed some depth at safety with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Mekhi Garner hurt. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, it's not expected to be a long-term injury, but the depth there is a little bit thin, and Sterns is a good player to take a chance on during training camp who could potentially crack this Eagles roster, and if he could stay healthy, starter potential, if not him being a backup, with also Sidney Brown continuing to recover from that torn ACL. He was placed on PUP to start training camp. So he's going to join the Eagles right off the jump, but he's not going to be practicing or playing as he participates in what the Eagles are calling a ramp-up period, but he will be involved in meetings as well as film study to learn the defense in which he has familiarity with. Has to get healthy. He'll watch the Eagles practice until the Eagles believe that he's healthy enough to return to practice action and game action. Now, defensive coordinator Vic Fangio was Sterns' first NFL head coach, and he also said that he doesn't expect to see Sterns on the practice field for at least a week. Quote, he was a good player, Fangio said before practice today, moved well, had good instincts, good ball skills, had a good feel for the game. We just need to see where he's at physically. And that Eagles safety spot, I've been talking about it for a long time because, look, you bring in Justin Simmons. He's a 4-time All-Pro with good ball skills. He leads the NFL in picks since getting drafted out of Boston College. And if C.J. Gardner-Johnson or Reed Blankenship or another safety were to get hurt, you're already dealing with the injury to Sidney Brown. Bringing in Justin Simmons makes a lot of sense, right? Now, Sterns is not going to be as expensive as Justin Simmons, which is probably what the Eagles' thinking is here. You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson just trying to come back from injury, and it's minor. You have Mekhi Garner dealing with the hamstring injury. He hasn't practiced since August 3rd. Sidney Brown rehabbing that torn ACL. So you needed to make a little bit of a move here. Vic Fangio even saying it's a position that's in transition from a roster standpoint. To make room for Sterns on the 90-man roster, the Eagles have released linebacker Shaquille Quarterman, who they just signed on Monday. We talked about that acquisition here on the show. He was the Jaguars' 4th-round pick in 2020. He's played in 63 games with no starts. He did not play defensively for the Eagles in their preseason opener against Baltimore on Friday night. He played only 2 snaps on special teams, so did not expect him to make the Eagles roster, and he has been since let go by Philadelphia here. So you think about where the Eagles are at with their entire roster, right? First, you think about where the offensive line is positioned. I think the Eagles are in a tremendous spot. You have Jordan Mailata at left tackle, Landon Dickerson at left guard, Cam Jurgens at center. I called this a couple of months ago in saying that I think Mekhi Becton is going to be this team starting right guard. Think about the Eagles' actions. Becton in the spring, when Landon Dickerson was an excused absence during mandatory minicamp, Eagles moved him to the interior. They liked what they saw there when he played left guard after originally signing Becton on a flyer deal to be this team's backup swing tackle. And then when Tyler Steen got hurt, the Eagles moved Becton to right guard, where he was getting some backup snaps, and he's really given this team something along the interior offensive line. And then, of course, you have Lane Johnson at right tackle. So this Eagles offensive line is in a really good position here. Wide receiver, you have one of the best 1-2 punches in the NFL with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Wide receiver 3, a little bit problematic. Following that preseason game, some people calling for the Eagles to make a trade for a wide receiver. I would not rule that out. Eagles are going to let the preseason play out, see what they continue to get from Paris Campbell, Johnny Wilson, Britton Covey, John Ross. I don't think Anaya Smith is going to be in the rotation there. See if any of those players can continue to rise up to the forefront. If not, canvass the market for other teams across the NFL and see what other players could be available. At running back, really impressed with Will Shipley in the preseason opener. I think that he could get snaps as a rookie, as a versatile running back. You know what you get from Kenneth Gainwell. And Saquon Barkley is a star. At tight end, Grant Calcaterra has emerged as the backup tight end. I think C.J. Uzomah is going to make the team as tight end 3. And then Albert Okwuegbunam is not going to make this club. And I think the Eagles go with 3 tight ends on the opening 53. Quarterback, Tanner McKee, Kenny Pickett still duking it out for the backup role behind Jalen Hurts, who still has not thrown an interception in training camp. You want to tell me that training camp stats don't matter? They do matter. And the fact that Jalen Hurts is playing well, he's confident, he's owning the system, thriving in the system, making good decisions with the football, when after the spring he was turning the ball over and struggling, this is a good sign moving forward, and I think it points to a bounce-back year for Hurts. And then defensively, Eagles are always going to invest in the defensive line. Bryce Huff, their big-ticket free agent acquisition. Nolan Smith had a sack against the Ravens. Played deep into the third quarter. I think he needed to. This is a player who's raw and young and needs to see snaps. And you see the speed. You see the ability, the bend, how he can get after the quarterback. He dropped back into coverage. I like his pursuit skills. He never gives up on a play. I love his motor. And then your depth there is pretty good with Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat. Defensive tackle, Jalen Carter can be a dominant force in this league. Jordan Davis has to get into better shape. If he can be a really good player. And then Milton Williams is a very solid rotational player. At linebacker, Eagles don't invest heavily there. It's Devin White, Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Ben Van Sumeren as the backups. I think Oren Burks is on the outside looking in. The Eagles are so deep at the cornerback spot, and then that brings us to safety, where the Eagles have made another move here for Caden Sterns. So coaching is better this year. I think Nick Sirianni is motivated to have a better year. I don't mind him being a CEO head coach. Kellen Moore is a really good offensive coordinator. Vic Fangio is a very accomplished defensive coordinator. I think that's going to have the Eagles better prepared with better schemes and better play calling, putting players in a position to succeed. We've seen some really good signs in training camp in the preseason. You think back to that game against the Ravens. Anytime you see young players pop, especially rookies, and Quinion Mitchell, who Vic Fangio applauded his play today, he might start for this team on the inside. He didn't even play slot nickel corner at Toledo. So the fact that he can play there and also outside as a rookie and contribute, that's great. Will Shipley, he could be a part of this Eagles running back rotation. Keely Ringo, good stuff from him in year 2. Nolan Smith popping. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. turning heads. Wild to see a Trotter in a number 54 jersey playing linebacker for the Eagles in 2024. Makes me feel old, but it's nostalgic because I think back to when I fell in love with Eagles football in the late 90s, early 2000s when Jeremiah Trotter Sr. was balling out for this team. Other injury news too, by the way. Cooper DeJean starting to do some conditioning work on a side field. That's good, and it's going to add further depth to the Eagles at cornerback and at safety. Vic Fangio was very complimentary of James Bradbury. He said he's been doing a damn good job of making that switch to a new position. So some overall thoughts on this Eagles roster. New addition to this Eagles team in Caden Sterns. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll be back in the studio tomorrow, Monday. Eagles do play their second preseason game on Thursday night against the New England Patriots, and hopefully we see the starters play in that game.